Welcome, boys and girls, back to taking some notes online. We've kind of been absent for a little while, but here we are back to start chapter 10 and get ready for spring break. So let's get started. You should have two pieces of paper you picked up in class. One is a strip with some prisms and whatnot shapes that we're going to talk about today. So if you want to have those ready and go ahead and cut them apart, you will need some glue or tape when we get to this piece. Then the other part was a worksheet. Looks like this. So we're going to go ahead and fold it so you can be ready for notes. So I'm going to fold it in half, pushing everything away from me. Do I have it like this? I'm going to fold it in half again. And then you should have a flat book that looks like this. So we're going to use this also and tape it down. So you may need a piece of tape for this activity too. So at any time, if you need, you can pause, write down what you need to write down, get supplies for what you need to get, and then push play and join me whenever you're ready. So take your time. All right. So the first section we're going to do is Chapter 10, Section 1. It is solid geometry, and hopefully this is lots of things that you've seen before. Some tools I'll have with me is a highlighter and my colored pencil, colored pen, and that's just to keep identifying some things. So we're going to start with some vocabulary. So these are the vocabulary words I want to talk about today. We're going to talk about our nets, face, edge, vertices. All of these you've seen before. Then we're even going to talk about prisms, cylinders, pyramids, cones, and then lastly, cross sections. So cross sections may be a little bit new for you. So let's just go ahead and start with our nets. Remember, nets are anytime you can take a three-dimensional figure and you can flatten it out. So once you see that diagram of it flattened out, that is considered a net. And you've seen nets before. All right, sorry for the, takes a little while to focus. All right, then I want you to define these three: a face, an edge, a vertice. And we talked about these all in Chapter 1. So all of these should be very familiar. So if you need to pause and write it down, go ahead. I'm going to keep going. All right. Hopefully you took time to write those down. In our definition, our identification, we are going to talk about these four types. We have prisms. Remember, prisms are any polygonal or any three-dimensional shape that has two polygon bases. So two polygon bases. Those bases are going to be congruent and parallel. So if you don't like writing the symbols, go ahead and write the words out. They're also named for their base. So if I have a triangular base, I'm going to be a triangular prism. If I have a pentagonal base, I could be a pentagonal prism that has a pentagon as a base. All the other faces are going to be rectangles. So all faces will be rectangles. But the base is what names our shape. And now I want you to define a cylinder, a pyramid, and a cone, and we'll check your definition in class. So hopefully you've seen these before: a cylinder, a pyramid, and a cone. All right. And then before we start our little pictures that we have, we also need to define what a cross section is. And a cross section is the intersection of a 3D figure and a plane. And anytime I abbreviate 3D, it means three-dimensional. So three-dimensional figure and a plane. And I'll show you some pictures of those to get a little better understanding. All right. So on my left-hand side, let me zoom out a little. Oops, wrong way. On my left-hand side, I'm going to want you to cut apart your shapes because they're in a little bit different order than what I'm putting out, and tape them down or glue them down. And this is my title bar. We're going to have our shape all the way on our left. We're going to name it, and then we're going to count the number of faces, edges, and vertices. So if you want to pause, take a minute to get those taped down, and then we'll come back. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you have this all taped down and you've even started filling it out all on your own. So I'm going to fill out the first one with you. and then let you fill out a couple, and then we'll come back and check all our answers. So the reason I needed my highlighter is I always highlight my base, and I like to do this because the base doesn't always mean bottom. So my first shape, in this case my base, is going to be the bottom and the top. So it is a prism. It has two bases, and those bases are parallel and congruent. And this, if you haven't already guessed, is a cube. Now my faces, I can count them. So I have two bases, 1, 2. And then I have the front side, 3, the back, 4, the left, 5, and the right, 6. So we have 6 faces. Now my edges, remember by definition, are where two faces meet, and it's a line segment. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 edges. And then vertices are the intersections. So I'm going to put little points. And I have 4 and 4, so I have 8. Okay. And what we're getting from this to even check to see if we're right, because what if I missed one? What if it was hidden, or it was a shape I'm not familiar with? Then we can use what's called Euler's number. And Euler's number, I'm going to squeeze it in right here at the top. It's spelled E-U-L-E-R. Looks like Euler's, it's pronounced Euler's. And that says if you have the number of vertices, so in this case 8, minus the number of edges, 12, plus the number of faces, so 8 minus 12 plus 6, then this number should equal 2 if you've counted everything correctly. So you can try it out. 8 minus 12 plus 6, do I get 2? And I do. Alright, so here's what I want you to do. You can pause, and I want you to give me the number of the name, the faces, the edges, and the vertices for all the rest of these shapes. If you don't know the name, that's fine. You can still count your faces, edges, and vertices. So go ahead and push pause, and when you're ready and you have it all filled out, come back and push play, and we'll check our answers. Okay, and welcome back. Hopefully you have all of these filled in, and notice I went ahead and highlighted my bases. Base doesn't always mean bottom, but base is how we name our prisms, cylinders, pyramids, and cones. I do have all of my faces, edges, and vertices filled in, so if you're cheating and didn't fill it in, that's okay. Go ahead, copy mine down, pause where you need to pause. I really like cylinders and cones because those are going to be the easiest formulas to have to deal with. But it's kind of fun to work with other kinds of pyramids, not just the square pyramid like you see in Egypt or Moody Gardens or even the triangular pyramid. Today we even have a pentagonal pyramid. This is going to be real fun, finding the area of a polygon. So we will need to do that again when we do volume. So if you're kind of weak in Chapter 9, make sure you come in for tutorials and get caught up on all those things. And then I did run out of space, so I had to put my sphere over on the other side, and that'll be in section 8, or yes, section 8 that we talk about spheres. Remember, they have no faces, no edges, and no vertices. So we'll talk about why this happens. And then don't forget, we'll talk about hemispheres, and then these numbers will change again. All right. So I do want to go to the folded little worksheet, and I'm just going to tape mine down on top of all this because it's real nice that it can flap up and down, and it's not going to interfere with my chart that I've already made. And if that bothers you, then I guess you can put it somewhere else in your notes, but just make sure you have it handy. Okay, so I want to point out this picture of a net. So these are nets. I can measure them. I can find certain things like surface area or volume with these. And if I wanted, I should be able to cut it out and fold it into the shape that I'm looking for. So you can name these nets what shape, if I fold them up, will they be. And their answers are even over here. So it's one of these shapes that we've already glued down. The cross section, though, this is something a little different. This is starting out with a three-dimensional figure, and then I slice a plane through it. And they're going to ask you things like, describe what's left if I could actually cut this off. So if I take this cylinder, this is a cylinder to begin with, and I could slice it like this plane is describing, what would I see? And what I'm going to see that's left over is the rectangle. And over here, I'm starting with a cone. And if I slice this cone, and then I was able to look at this, what's left, I would see this little circle shape. So kind of interesting, cross sections. And then we're even going to talk about if I actually could cut this piece of the cone off, what's left over here, and how is it useful. So if you open it up, they're going to ask you to sketch some objects and what type of solid is it. So a shoebox, a can of tuna. Hopefully you can do those. Those are kind of elementary. Then what kind of nets these are, again. Name what kind of net this is, and if I fold it up, one of these will not work, so which one? Again with our cross section, describing what shape is left if I cut it off. So I want you to do those two on your own. I just did two with you. Can you name the two that are left? And then questions 12 and 13, just naming the vertices and the edges. So if I had a gift box and it's a pentagonal prism, so we've kind of already done this. And then this one's a little outside the box. It says which two solids have the same number of vertices. So maybe if you want to refer back to your chart, you can tell which two have the same number of vertices. All right, so that's all I have for section 1, solid geometry. Hopefully it's things you've been seeing. And don't forget to play the second video. It will be 10-2, and we're going to talk about perspective drawings and isometric drawings. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day.